Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo and I'm delighted to be on the show again today. Now, who has not heard about the Guardian newspaper, famous Nigerian newspaper, been around for so many years? We call it an elite newspaper in Nigeria. And the Guardian has a fascinating history. Today's guest is one of two authors who have written a book to document a very important part of the history of The Guardian. The title of the book is The Making of the Nigerian Flagship. After we meet the two authors who have written this book, one of them joins us in the studio for a conversation about this book and The Guardian. Enjoy this.
Aaron Ukodie, a media entrepreneur with over 35 years' experience in journalism, and Oshenwo Ogunsetan, a communication specialist, are the Guardian newspaper's first communications and science correspondents, respectively. They are the co-authors of The Making of the Nigerian Flagship, which is a story of the Guardian newspapers. The Making of the Nigerian Flagship documents the birth of Guardian newspapers alongside the vision that drove its formation, its unmatched journalism ideals, and the standards it's fostered and nurtured between 1983 and 1993. The book is a good resource material for journalists, mass communicators, historians, and members of the general public who wish to have relevant and concise knowledge of the Nigerian media and the practice of journalism.
Aaron, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Great. You have done something very special and important for journalism history in Nigeria. Well done.
Thank you.
The Making of the Nigerian Flagship, a story of The Guardian, important brand in journalism, and you've done important work in documenting its first 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah. But before we dig into the book, what has it been like for you as a journalist? It's been many years in the profession.
Well, first of all, let me say, as you can see, the book is written by two persons, my friend and Oshenwo Ogunsetan, and so I need to make that point. Working as a journalist from 1985 has been very challenging, very interesting, and there have been many ups and downs. There are moments you say, look, you want to continue as a journalist. There are moments you say, oh, this trade, this profession is not worth it. But above all, I mean, if in summary, I can say it's a good experience and it's paid me well.
That's 36 years.
Yes.
Wow. Well done.
Yes, thank you.
Well done. And I mean, journalism, as you well know, is an exciting profession.
Yes.
And as you have stated, full of many challenges. But what has inspired you the most in those 36 years as a journalist?
Writing stories. You go out, you get an exclusive stories, and you come out, you write the story. The next day you are waking up, first of all, you are imagining, you are thinking, will my story make the front page? And the next day you come, you go to the newsstand, bam, your story is there, front page by Aaron Ukodie. And you go to your competitors, Concord, Daily Times, New Nigeria, Punch, and they don't have it. Then you say, good for them. I got it, and you are happy.
You're a newsman to the core.
Yes, you are happy. So that's the joy,
Is it,
the excitement.
so is this, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of articles and reports over the
Yes.
many years. This is your second book, or is it?
No,
am I right? Second or
this,
third?
this is actually my, I could say fifth.
Oh, fifth.
Yes, I've written two biographies, and also written two other publications, mainly all except one of the biographies are on the ICT industry. There's a biography that I wrote on the former acting managing director of Bank of Industry, Wahid Olagoju, the father. And I've also written a biography on Ndukwe, which I titled Ernest Ndukwe, Telecommunication Revolution, A Walk in Tandem. there are other publications on the ICT industry, the milestones, the stars. So, yeah, 5 books. If you add this, that would be 6.
Incredible.
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah.
Incredible. And your partner, Oluwaseun Ogunseyitan, how did you agree to do this? What's the story behind your partnership on this?
Okay. Seun Ogunseyitan was on the Sunday desk. I was on the daily. We're not really, so we were on parallel editions. So after we left The Guardian, he left first, and I left 2 years after. And for 30 years, we did not meet until last 2019. I wrote a book which I titled The Lead Story, an ICT reporter's, a story of an ICT reporter. So that's the title of the book. So I published it in 2014, and in 2019, I started to serialize it on Facebook, and he saw it. And some of my friends saw it, and they were making their comment, but Seun saw it. The intro of the book, I said, look, if I had engaged some of my editors and colleagues at The Guardian, the book would have been bigger than.
Yeah.
So he saw that. He said, look, let me reach out to Aaron. That was the first time I had a contact with Seun after we left The Guardian. And he said, look, can we do this book together? I said, yes. Before then, I'd actually contacted 2 of my other colleagues who, because they were engaged, they were not interested. So that's how Seun and I came together, we met, and we mapped out how we can go about writing this book.
That's the story behind this.
Yes.
Fantastic. The making of the Nigerian flagship, the story of The Guardian. The Guardian newspaper, what more can we say? 1983,
Yes.
the introduction of The Guardian
Yes.
into journalism in Nigeria.
Yes.
It really did change things, didn't it?
Yes. I think that's a testimony that is out there. And because of the kind of vision that was behind it, and also because of the kind of people that were put together to birth this vision, and people who were committed to bringing some sort of revolution into journalism in Nigeria, and trying to create a brand that would match some of the brands that we see in Europe, in America, and even when you see the Times of India and the rest of them. So that is what they had in mind. And also said, look, journalists should be able to stand their own with the corporate world. When you see bankers and the rest of them, after all of us went to the same school, why would journalism be seen as a profession that is, so The Guardian came in, taught just to show that, look, journalists can also stand their own. Journalists are also well educated. They are people who can mold opinion. They are people who are able to analyze situations and proffer solutions. That is what The Guardian...
They're professionals.
Yes, they're professionals.
Like you have professionals in every other
everywhere,
field.
yeah.
I'm going to come back to that, the motivation behind it, because there's a question I will ask you about what I read in your book. But give us a rundown, a summary rather, of this book. Anybody who is picking up the making of the Nigerian flagship, what are they going to find in here? What's this book about?
Okay, there are 4 sections in the book. There is 620 pages, and there are about 28 chapters. And the first part of the book actually talked about how the vision was, the vision behind the book, and the people that are behind the book, and what went into creating The Guardian. And also it talked about how those who worked at The Guardian in the first 10 years, how they came together, and the effort that was taken to bring them. And then you move on to sections to give examples of how some of those stories and the process that went into producing those stories, feature articles, exclusive stories, and also to show that the kind of stories that The Guardian reporters at that time, news managers were publishing were somehow exceptional, and also to show what went into producing those copies that you see. So we try to show some of those copies, and also to tell people in the book the journalists that went about getting these stories and their experiences in getting these stories, the challenges they went to getting these stories. And we also try in the book to say, look, in those days, exclusive stories was what made The Guardian what it was. The Guardian reporter never wanted to go and get stories that every other the competition was getting. So we set out, so that the motivation behind the journalists of that time we tried to recreate that motivation. We tried to give a picture of what was motivating the journalists of that time.
Yeah.
And we went on, various journalists, some of our colleagues also came on to give their experiences, what we call reflections, reminiscences, their days in The Guardian, and some of those very, what you call very happy moments in their journalism careers, and what we also call some of those times which, look, they wished they were never journalists.
Those moments.
Yes, those moments that they had encounters with security people. It was very common with The Guardian that virtually every week you see security people coming, because the Guardian reporter would just go into, no matter where the story is, a Guardian reporter will come to where you are sitting, you are a civil servant, you have a paper on your table, a document, maybe a memo, a ministerial memo. You've just had a meeting 4 hours ago, and the Guardian reporter comes and he gets it from your table and he writes it. So we try to tell the story of how journalism was practiced at that time. So some of these people gave their experiences, about 40 of them, and these are no mean people. These are people who practice journalism at that top level. And they are still in journalism today. Some of them are managing directors, some of them are senators, some of them are commissioners, information commissioners, some of them are governors.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
one of them is the governor. So that is, then we went on to also talk about some of those sections of The Guardian. You know, what went into creating those sections, why those sections were created, at least to get money. The business aspect of newspaper.
So it is the story of The Guardian.
Yes.
Now, I read from here that if I want to talk about how The Guardian started,
Yeah.
I absolutely have to talk about Chief Olusegun Oshoba
Yes.
and
Alex.
Dr. Alex Ibru.
That's
They
correct.
were the two eggheads
That's correct.
behind The Guardian initially.
Initially, yes.
Is that
Yes.
an accurate story?
They were the two persons that met initially to talk about creating a newspaper. And thereafter, Dr. Patrick Cole and Dr.
Patrick
Daley Cole came
I mean,
in.
these are legends in journalism, yeah.
And Dr. Stanley Makebu, one of the finest
Dr. Stanley Makebu.
yes, minds in the literary world
Yeah.
and in journalism.
Yeah. Okay. So so back to when you answered the first question or so, I said I was going to get back to that particular question. There is a narrative here
Yeah,
that says that the Ibru family
yeah,
wanted a voice because one of the Ibrus had been unjustly locked up
yes.
by, was it the regime of
The regime of
was it
Babangida then?
President Buhari?
No, was it Buhari? It was
Babangida?
Babangida then, 1984.
Yeah.
1970. That was Buhari. 1970.
That was in the 70s.
In the
It was
70s,
1978 or
1978,
so,
thereabouts.
yes.
77, 78.
Murtala government, I
Yes,
think.
Murtala government.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
there was what was called a counter coup. And they thought that he had a
They
hand.
thought he had a hand in the coup
in the
and he
coup.
was arrested.
Yes, he was.
Yes. And they had gone to other newspapers. Nobody wanted to carry the story. So they felt they needed a
voice.
platform
Yeah.
where they could tell their own story.
Yes.
That was one of the motivations behind the
Guardian.
creation of The Guardian. Is that true?
That's true. Yes, as you will read in the book, Alex Ibru, who was the one who was more sociable, who was the one who was outgoing, tried to get the story of the family to say that, look, our brother, Felix Ibru, was not involved in this coup. So he went to newspaper houses. Newspaper houses, perhaps at that time, they were afraid. And look, we don't want to carry the side of the story. We don't know how the military would react to our reporting your side of the story. So they refused to carry his story. That was what made the Hebrew family say, look, if this is what is going to happen, if we cannot get our story out, and apparently they would also have thought, look, if others cannot get their stories out because of fear of a regime, what the regime is going to do, we need to get our own voice. We need to get our own paper. So that was the first motivation to start a newspaper. The Guardian.
what has changed in print journalism, in your opinion?
Yeah.
What have you seen change over the years that makes you perhaps sad and happy, worried?
Okay, I think it was Dr. Chidi Amuto that captured it, the death of the editor.
The death of the editor.
Of the editor. So today you open newspapers and you see a lot of grammatical errors. The sentences are not well. In those days, students made the Guardian a reference point for teaching of English language. So today, a reporter brings a story, and the story just goes published. In those days, the story went through a process. We had the chief sub-editor, we have other sub-editors, we have the news editor, then you move on to the deputy editor, the copy editor, the production editor. So the copy, if the chief sub-editor reads your story and the story is not balanced, it's not round, he asks you to go and add more meat. That this story, the reader must get all questions answered. Because his reader is reading, he needs information, he's asking questions, and your story is not providing the answers. So that is what has happened to journalism. Because, again, I can understand, because everybody wants to, because of the competition, everybody wants to be read immediately. You want to post your story online so that tomorrow when you print it, the competition has not reported it. So because of time, social media, maybe that is the reason why media houses do not take seriously the gatekeeper. Yes, so that is a worry to journalism. And not many people are doing rounding up their stories. The stories are shallow, stories are not, there's no meat, there's no information that is needed.
But there must be something that excites you that has changed from a positive perspective over the years.
Positive perspective.
Or hard to find.
Look, the point is look, I don't think journalists today, I don't think, yes, I'm not talking about broadcast people. Broadcast people is a different, I'm talking about print that I'm used to. I don't think there's anything that excites the journalists today. It's nothing that motivates, that he wants to go out to get story. I'm still in the business, but not in that big sense. I still publish and online. But nothing excites us. Nothing, you get the story, you don't care whether the story is round, whether the story is... You are looking because of the social economic situation of the country today. The journalist is, motivation is down, and proprietors too.
I can only imagine how that worries you. I mean, after going through this, seeing the way print journalism was, first 10 years of The Guardian, the kinds of professionals, that the kinds of characters that I saw in here, the quality of work that was produced, and so on. I can only imagine how much that worries you.
But I must add, because I'm looking at some of those TV stations. Let me not mention names, but I still get excited when I see the kind of engagement some of the presenters, when they get those interviewees to their stations and the way they engage them. I remember very well in 2014, channels, 2015, channels, 2016, channels, and Arise TV just came on too. The way some of your presenters, those who interview the guests, the way they engage them, is exciting, but they could do more. I must say that is exciting. Every morning I wake up, I want to listen to Sunrise Daily. I want to listen to Arise Television. So I switch in between the free stations, TVC, channels, because of the engagement, the way you people engage some of the people, the guests that you bring in, but you could do more.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment, and thank you for the advice. That should be taken, coming from a man who has been 36 years in journalism and the author of this beautiful book, The Making of the Nigerian Flagship. Thank you for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thanks to your co-author, Sheon Ogunseyitan.
He will hear.
Well done to both of you.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.